So, okay. All right. Hey, Tad,
Yes, Alex?
let me address the allegations. All right, listen. All right, are you
Is this a
listening?
sex thing?
No, don't worry. Nothing so devious. No. So a while ago, I talked to Ted about Fire Emblem 7, how I got completely fucked over by it. That game was easy as hell until it wasn't, where it hit me with that meat wall of a final boss. I got the little MS Paint image, and I was like dragging the little units around. Do you guys remember that bit? Okay, so I might be gay and stupid. Let me explain. Now, Tad, in that, remember how I said there are those several mini bosses and you can get like secret like loot from them and shit? Well, it turns out those are also legendary weapons that could have hurt the dragon this whole fucking time. Now, you might be thinking, Alex, how could you be so stupid not know the S rank weapons were also going to hurt the dragon? They don't have the dragon logo on them like the Worm Slayers, okay? Second off, Athos doesn't say, oh, by the way, like, here are my 3 legendary weapons I've given you. And by the way, these fucking random NPC bosses also just have legendary weapons conveniently right here. He doesn't fucking say that. He says, here are the 3 weapons, and with my magic, we might stand a chance. I've been told
weren't
that
your
that's
other characters equipped with those best rank weapons anyway?
No, because you only get Durandal or Ahmad's based on who you're playing as, either Eliwood or Hector, and then Lynn and whoever you didn't get the legendary weapon for initially will get the other 2 in that final map. So like you only have 1 legendary until that last moment where then it just says, oh, by the way, here's just 20 for some reason. All right, and again, he never tells me that's what those are. Now, in retrospect, it's a little more obvious because Fire Emblem 7 was a prequel to 6, but we never got 6. So I played 7 first because I was kind of like getting like, this is what like a gaijin like me would have experienced back in like 2004, right? This was the only game we had. So in 6, the entire plot of 6 is getting all of those weapons because they're special. So, like, the idea is, if you played 6 first and then played 7, you're like, oh, it's the legendaries, I know what those are.
Know.
But that obviously doesn't happen for the blind experience of a fucking gaijin, so I had no reason of knowing. And you might remember, when I was getting walled, I'm like, okay, there has to be a way, like, I must be doing something wrong. I can't just have Athos do all the work. There's something I'm doing wrong here. I looked it up. Went to like GameFAQs. So like, oh yeah, just have Athos crit. Went to the wiki. Just have Athos crit. Asked my friends. Just have Athos crit. None of those 3 sources told me that those were also dragon effective weapons. Because again, the game doesn't tell you in any situation that they are. So
Was that how your friend did it too then?
Yeah, he just had Athos get a lucky fucking 20% crit and he just won the fight with that. So, like, listen, I was literally just given really bad information, all right? Contextually, I had no way of knowing that those were there. I just thought they were, like, powerful weapons. Because the games I played previously were the 3DS games, and S-rank weapons of them are just S-rank weapons. They don't have any, like, special stories.
Well, I'll tell you what, Alex,
Now,
We'll make this verdict at the end of this episode if you are, in fact, gay and retarded, as you were saying earlier. We'll see how this plays out. Let's see how Femblem 4 and 5 treated you.
Okay. So after I played 7, I played a handful of games, and you know, I talked about them on the Discord. I'm not gonna bother with that here, but I'm significantly better now that I played all of the older titles now. Now, GBA games are all right. But I go into Fire Emblem 4. Now, Fire Emblem 4 was really interesting to me. This is the one that's told that everyone talks about is like, this is like the best one. This is the good one. This is the one that everyone shills a lot in like the community, right? Now, it's actually really different. Instead of like having like, here's a map with like 3 objectives and a base you have to capture, and then you have like 30 maps, this actually only has 11 maps. But these maps are fucking gigantic. So I actually sent you a picture of the world map of Yugdral. That's the place. Now, what's interesting is that I'll show you this little image right here. Here's that map again, but now with the in-game sprites, because every chapter of the game takes place across an entire country, an entire region. You play the entire map of the game, which is actually really cool.
Fun.
Yeah, it's actually really fucking cool. And so, like, the maps are huge. So it'll be like Sigurd will be on a horse and he'll fly across the map and you're going out the entire country and they will take like, each map will take you multiple hours. Because he wanted this game to basically be like as close to an actual huge scale, like Total War kind of game, you know, like an actual RTS, as he possibly could given the limitations of the Super Nintendo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, this is on the fucking Super Nintendo.
Yep.
So this is like 1996 or some shit.
The 4 came out in 94, if I recall correctly. So,
Oh, so it's as old as I am.
so old
which
as
is
I am
30.
too.
You know
So-
how I know I'm 30, Alex? I sneezed while driving in the car today and my fucking elbows hurt. I'm gonna die.
I mean, not only am I getting the Vegeta Widow's Peak, I'm also I have little arch supports for in my shoes from walking around doing carts all day.
It's so fucking
It's
over,
so over. So this game is really interesting. It's not only do this big thing, but also this is the first game to introduce the pairing mechanic, the shipping that's really popular nowadays with the modern Emblem games. But in this case, there's an actual reason you do it. You don't just see which characters you want to see kiss. When you have these characters paired together and get married and have a kid, these kids show up later in the game because it's called Genealogy of the Holy War. It is a large story that spans multiple years. Like, even the first half of the game with Sigurd, like, that campaign, he's going across the entire world, going country to country. That takes years, right? So, like, it's a really large-scale game with a surprisingly compact story for, like, again, how, like, old and, like, simple the game is, right? I don't want to just do, like, a story summary, because I generally think it's kind of a bit of an experience, and I really, really liked it. Just one thing I learned, though, is that, this is the game that Three Houses was trying to be, huh? They actually just peaked in 94, and they've been riding that coattail ever since, huh? Like, it is almost exactly the fucking same. Like, the Holy Blood thing is like the crests and shit. Arvis, like, Edelgard is literally just Emperor Arvis. And Arvis is objectively just a way better fucking character. And, like, I want to give all the Fire Emblem 4 fans out there credit. You guys are right, all right? I didn't like this game at first. I thought it was kind of slow, and it's really easy. Like, as you guys know, I'm a big gay retard. I think the Fire Emblem 7 video made that pretty clear. However, even my ass was just kind of blitzing through this game without really any trouble.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a
Seems
really
like it was more geared, and it's kind of a unique thing to do way back in the 90s. On a Super Nintendo, I should say.
Yeah.
To be like, here's a mostly story-based game on the same system you could play fucking Yoshi's Island.
Yep, exactly. And then that's part of what surprised me. There's just so much. Like, this game took me about 80 hours to play, and there was a lot of just reading, because, like, you'll explore the area, and, like, where do you get all the story? Characters interact with each other, because you have these forts that you capture, and you can go inside the castles, go into the town, and talk with people and shit. So, like, characters like, say, Lex over there will have some dialogue to talk with Alec when they go hang out in the base together. Or like Quan and Ethlin, because they're lovers. They'll have a bunch of, like, romantic dialogue when they hang out in the base together. Or, like, you'll have little mini side quests and shit. Like, take Arden, the slowest character in the game, have him go on a fucking journey to, like, this beach where he'll have a little, like, story segment where he finds the speed ring, which allows him to, the pursuit ring.
To go fast?
Yes, because he's the slowest unit, but it allows him to attack twice if he's faster than the opponent. Now, it's not that good on Arden, but you give it to other people. However, I love Arden, so I let Arden keep it, because I'm really good at the game. So...
I could see the appeal where it's like, I could pair up these characters, or if some of them die off in combat, they're just straight up gone, right?
Yes. There's permadeath and, well,
I see that appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting here is, when I was playing through the game, I wasn't really feeling it until there's a specific chapter. Let me go get it up for you. Let me go get that fucking picture for you right here. All right, so... you can probably see on this little website here that I gave you, that's a really big image. So, here's how this works. Now, Chapter 5 is kind of like the finale of Part 1. And it wasn't the barbecue that got me hooked in, though that's what a lot of people get hooked in with. What happens...
Barbecue?
I'll talk about that in a minute. So what happens in this is that, you see on the right there, you see that little red circle around that little gate. That little gate thing right there. So...
Yeah.
So the map is kind of divided into segments. You have to go through this first top half before that gate opens so you can do the rest of the map. That way you're not overloaded with like 30 objectives at once, right? So as you go through this here and you kill all these traitorous guys who killed your dad and all this other bullshit. Again, I don't want to talk about the story too much here. What happens is that little thing opens up and your reinforcements show up. Ethlin and Quan. Ethlin being Sigurd's sister and Quan being his brother-in-law and his like best bromigo ever, right? Now, they leave early on in the game to go get reinforcements to help you with the war. But what happens is that King Trevant shows up. Now, Quan is from a place called Thracia, Thracia is basically fucking Korea, where it's split in half due to a fucking really long civil war. So like North Thracia is like the cool one with all like the resources and fertile farmland and shit, and South Thracia is the shitty mountain area that there nothing grows and all they have are a bunch of like swords and dragons and shit, right? So they have always wanted to unify, but who's gonna be in power, right? They're never gonna unify now because they're always gonna argue about that shit, right? So here's what happens. Quan takes half of his army with him to help Sigurd out while leaving the other half with his knight Finn back home in case Trevant tries to make any moves while he's gone. But King Trevant had spies, and he was aware of what Quan was doing. So as soon as they show up, all of those little guys in the bottom right, Trevant and all of his goons, show up as well. He looks at them with a telescope, and he's like, all right, it's time. Get him. And so he has all of his knights go in and ambush them in the desert. And this is what I think was actually completely fucking genius and got me hooked into the game. When this is happening, you can still play the game. It's not a cutscene. This is happening through your turns. So you are being slowed by the desert, and the game makes you think you can just make it and save them, but you can't. They're too far away. It's so fucking devious. Watching them, like, you can try to like get Sigurd, your fastest guy, get your flyer over there. They'll never make it in time because all the Wyvern riders have horse killers or whatever. They do bonus damage to mounted units, and so they'll slaughter all of them. Trevant himself will personally kill Quan and Ethlin. He has different dialogue based on who he kills first. He killed Ethlin first in my thing, where Ethlin was bringing their little daughter Altenna with her to come meet Sigurd because they're siblings. Wanted to meet her uncle. He just fucking grabs her and she's trying to protect her kid, just rams her through with his fucking spear, takes the little baby in his hand, points his spear at it, and he's like, Quan, put down your weapon or your daughter fucking gets it. Quan then unequips his weapon. Again, gameplay story integration. Combat ensues again. Now Trevant just starts doing attack and attack and attack, and Quan doesn't fight back because he doesn't have his thing equipped. And you just watch him slowly die. And it's so fucking sad. Because again, that takes a couple turns. Again, you can still move during this, so it makes you think you can make it. It makes you think you can just barely get there. What's up?
Is this the only time that they do this sort of cutscene within gameplay in this game?
No, they actually do one in the previous chapter where you watch the Pegasus riders get massacred by a bunch of reinforcements. However, that one's a little worse because the way it works is that in that case, the area that they're in is blocked off, so you can't get there. So it's a little like you can kind of see through the fakeness. You
just kind of have to sit there and wait.
Yeah, so even if you were prepared to move to the next area, you literally just have to wait for the in-game cutscene to play. In this case, though, because you're right there, it's way more dynamic. And again, it really gets the tragedy of just like, it really twists the knife in you. I guess is what I'm trying to say here. It's so good.
Do they do this in later Fire Emblems?
No.
I wonder if it was from a limitation of the hardware, right? Because this being split into two parts of these giant ass maps makes me think this is filling up a lot of the Super Nintendo. Like that cartridge is probably pretty packed.
All 8 megabytes.
I wonder if it was because of that they're like, okay, we're gonna have a shitload of cutscenes in here. Let's try and pack some of them in like ways that take up very little space. And I think that's a very fun way they chose to represent that. I really like it.
So after all that, I want to talk about the barbecue because you asked. It's iconic scene. So again, I'm not gonna harp on the story too much here, but throughout the game, you are basically just self-defending your way to just attacking and conquering everything in the name of Granville, which is
your animal conservationing your way through.
Yeah,
like that Cabela's Big Hunts game, where you would shoot the walls, you'd shoot the trees, and cats would fall.
Yeah. So you can self-defend his way to basically conquering everything for Granville, but then a coup happens, and his father is framed for the murder of the prince of Granville. And then they want to bring in Sigurd and like question him and probably just torture the shit out of him, right? But he's in here fighting against the traitors. All this shit happens. When you conquer the next town, you move down to a place called Velthomer. Velthomer is the house that Arvis is from. Arvis, that red-haired guy that I showed you in that picture. That guy helps you out early in the game by giving you the silver sword, which is like one of the best weapons you're going to get for a very long time. Now, when you get there, Arvis has his whole goons up there, all those red guys, Lord Reptor and all of his minions. And once you march up into that little area where he's at, on that cliffside, Arvis signals to the guys to betray Reptor. They all turn to green units, and again, gameplay story integration. Now they start throwing meteors and helping you win. So after he helps you win, you all shake hands. You're like, "Oh, thank you, Arvis. I knew you were my best bro this whole time. Thank you for knowing I was innocent." He's like, "Of course, my friend. Of course. Listen, Sigurd. I didn't believe him for a second. Come over to Velthamer. No, come down to fucking Valhalla down there. We're gonna throw a big celebration for your heroic return. All right." So, cutscene. This is an actual in-game cut. This is an actual cutscene this time. This one isn't interactive. He has all you guys show up. He does this big fanfare. All of his mages are doing like little fireworks, like magic and shit to celebrate your thing there. And then Arvis walks up and he says, "Sigurd, for the crime and the treachery you have committed about you and your father, I sentence you to death." And Sigurd goes, "Wait, what?" And Arvis betrays you for political gain. Then all of the little mages turn to red units and start casting meteors and kill everybody. Everyone that you've adventured with this whole time all get murdered. And Arvis shows up with Deidre being Sigurd's wife, because in a previous cutscene, she gets kidnapped by a dark mage, brainwashed, and then married to Arvis. And he parades her around just to like rub it into Sigurd. Before Sigurd could even like try to like explain anything, he zaps him with his own fucking holy magic, called Verflame, and burns Sigurd alive and kills him. Everybody dies. And it's an iconic scene because it's just like, oh, okay.
I just spent half the game with these people.
Yes, it is basically like the PG version of the Black Sun from Berserk, where it's got the treachery, all your friends dying, the little NTR bit in there, right? It's got all the same things. And Berserk would have been like new at the time. So after that, 17 years pass, and in the 17 years, Arvis takes over, and like he messed, like all of his competitors are dead because of you. Everyone's out of the picture. Now he gets to rule with his beloved little wife, who was your wife, right? However, after 10 years of a golden age, because Arvis actually did end suffering. He ended poverty, he ended injustice, and he made the world a better place. Until it didn't, because his son, Julius, gets corrupted by an evil dark tome given to him by Manfroy. And what happens here is that, why did the Dark Wizards capture Deidre, you're probably wondering? Why did it have to be Deidre?
I assume because Arvis paid him off.
No, Arvis had no idea. Arvis was a pawn, and he didn't even realize it. And that's part of what makes him so interesting. You see, let's go to that blood chart I sent you. And this is where the mechanics of the game go into the story again. And again,
this homestuck ass blood chart you sent me.
Yes. And this is why I'm bringing this whole thing up, because again, I was like, oh, I get it now. Like, I thought this was just like a funny like RPG chart when I first saw it, but once the story explained everything, I'm like, oh, I get it now. So in the lore, what happened is there was a big evil dragon named Loptis who ran this big evil empire that spanned the entire continent. He would have child sacrifices and shit to feed him and drink their blood and shit. He was just evil, right? And the people that ruled, the holy, like, unholy, the unholy, like, emperor just ruled for, like, 200 years. Until eventually the other dragon said, okay, fuck this guy, gave 12 humans, I should say 11 humans, holy weapons and their own holy blood to then fight him and destroy the empire. Now, that's all well and good, but it didn't end there. After that happened, anyone who was related to the Loptrians was hunted down and lynched for 500 straight years. So, Tad, the Loptrians were bad people, yeah, but you're the grandson of Jimmy the blacksmith, and he was a Loptrian? Well, gotta string you up. Sorry, you gotta die. And so what ended up happening is the people ended up being just as oppressive, if not more, to the Loptrians and the Loptrians were 100 years ago. So, like, Manfroy grew up in a world where, like, Manfroy didn't fucking kill kids. He didn't fucking know. Like, he grew up, as far as he knows, he's just been on the run, living in a cave, eating rats all day, being told that he was evil for something that he never did. So he grew up to be and he became evil because of this, though he became, like, this evil dark wizard and shit, right? And it's this whole cycle.
It's a cycle, yeah.
Exactly.
I imagine that's part of, like, the major themes of the game, is, like, you can perpetuate this kind of shit, even without intending to.
Yes, exactly. So
that's what that Arvis guy, that's what immediately came to mind when you said Arvis actually did run shit pretty well for a while. Mm-hmm. I assume because he's piggybacking off of a lot of the shit that you, the player, have done.
Yeah.
And choices you have made.
Yes. He does a little bit, but even then, after you're done, he runs the tight ship. But, like, again, why? Yeah. Why did I bring up the Loptrian things? Because Loptis also did the same thing the other dragons did, where he gave his blood to the humans so they could use his like evil magic and shit, right? And that's what made the emperors and stuff. Arvis is actually a descendant of one of those guys. He's a Loptrian, albeit very far removed. He's only like a little bit because it's been so long. But he's got minor Loptrian blood. See the blood chart? Those little things will have a glowing spot if someone is a descendant of like Baldur, Forseti, Naga, Null, Njorn, or Hodi or something, right? They have a little bit of that dragon blood in them. And it will glow a lot if they have major blood. What is major holy blood? Well, Tad, we gotta talk about Fire Emblem 4 blood. We gotta talk about incest. You see, if somebody, say like your grandfather's a descendant of Ode. He has a kid. That guy will have minor Ode blood as well. But if he were to fuck his sister, who also has minor Ode blood, then they would get major Ode blood. Now you might be thinking, you're telling me both a gameplay and story mechanic is incest. Wait, does that mean Daedra is? Yes. That's why it had to be Daedra that they kidnapped, because Daedra is Arvis's half-sister and he doesn't even know it. Because his mom like left when he was a little boy. He doesn't really know her very well. But she had 2 different kids with 2 different men. So he doesn't even know it, but the wizards do. The wizards were looking like all over the place for people with Lapis blood just to enact their plan. Their plan being to revive their dark god so that the dark god.
So they were just grabbing who the fuck ever, yeah.
Yeah, the fact that Sigurd gets caught up in this is honestly like he's a useful pawn because he's strong, but at the end of the day, like him falling in love with Daedra, that's just unfortunate. That's just an unfortunate thing. Why Arvis has to kill him? Well, because he does genuinely love Daedra, right? And he doesn't want to believe that Manfroy like mind wiped her and stuff, but he knows. He knows deep down the truth, right? So he knows that if Sigurd and her were to meet, the whole thing, like she's gonna remember him and leave him, and he doesn't want to be alone anymore because he had a really bad life, you know.
He's being very selfish about it.
Yeah, and so Sigurd's gotta die. You might be thinking, why doesn't he just like throw Sigurd to like one of the far off countries? Well, because he's the emperor. They're eventually gonna see the empress, and he's gonna
come back.
Yeah, it's gonna come up. He's gotta die now, and if like people know like, oh, this is a lie, she's brainwashed, like it's gonna make him look bad again. Politics. Sigurd's gotta fucking die. He doesn't even want to kill Sigurd, but he has to. So that's why Julius becomes so evil, because he has he's a little fucking double chromosomal incest baby. And he has major holy blood, specifically the unholy blood of the Dark Dragon. So when he was given the little tome when he was 10 years old, the god basically just took him over and then became an avatar of Loptis. And then he started just ruining everything. He like attacked his sister Julia and tried to kill her. Daedra tried to stop him. He just murdered Daedra. Arvis lost his fucking mind when he saw that. He tries to immediately kill Julius. And then he
becomes the antagonist of part 2, I imagine.
Yes, Julius and Manfroy, the protagonist. Arvis tries to fight back and stop Julius. Gets his ass fucking handed to him. Because he even Verflame is nothing compared to fucking, Loptis and shit, right? And so Arvis becomes like this puppet emperor. And he's like this depressed old man and shit. And after the 17-year time skip. I fucking love this character. I think it is fucking insane how, like, he only has like 10 lines of dialogue because he's kind of like in the background for a lot of it. But like, every scene he's in is so good. And again, like, I went from like, this is kind of whatever to like, again, after chapter 5, lock the fuck in. I was so interested in it. It became so fucking crazy to me. I fucking love it. Now, again, easy game, nothing special. I don't want to ruin the whole thing for you. But let's go on to Fire Emblem 5 now. Now, Fire Emblem 4 is largely story-based and very easy. You can legitimately have Sigurd solo the entire game with the Silver Sword. And that's not even a joke. It's really easy. Like, you also have What's up?
I feel like part of that may be, look at how many fucking bloods there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 12 different ones. And which is going to be easier to balance with that? Yeah, just let people bowl through the game if they really want to. Or let's meticulously balance fuck it. You could just be strong.
Yeah.
I get it.
And even like with the whole pairing thing, to go back to it actually, with the whole pairing thing, like no matter who you pair up, you'll have different dialogues and stuff, which is really cool actually. But like, even if, say, Arden over there, who's, like, one of the worst units, marries, say, Aira, and they have Larcey together with, like, really bad, like, defense and low speed growth, she's so overpowered on as is that she's gonna be good no matter who Aira fucks, right? You're pretty much good to go. You have to try really hard to make them bad. I actually watched a video of a guy specifically doing that challenge of, like, the bad child challenge, and he's just like, guys, they're still winning the game for free. This is really like they're it's really hard to make them bad. So,
oh, by the way, so for part 2, so I'm looking at the image here of all these 90 anime caricatures. Tell me about Glup and Shido.
Okay, so after the time skip, Seliph is, because he's born before like all this goes down. He is whisked away because Sigurd feels like there's something wrong, right? He's like he wants to trust Arvis, but he's like he's kind of, his vibes are off. He has Eyvel, his young squire. And
with the mustache.
Well, he didn't have a mustache when he was a kid in part 1, because he was like 13 or whatever. He's a squire to Sigurd's knight, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So he has his squire take his son as well as Shannon, the prince of Isaac, the other country over there, away back to Isaac in hiding in case anything goes down. If everything goes well, just bring him back, but just in case, put him over there, right, to the border of somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So 17 years pass. Seliph over here, he rises up with his own new army, and in the very first map, which is chapter 6, he's got, Seliph, you get Julia, you get Larsae, you get Skathik over there. Larsae and Skathik being Aera's kids, Julia being Deidre's other kid with a daughter with Arvis, thus Seliph's half-sister. Now, Glup and Shido are 2 guys who are going to always appear no matter what. They are 2 axe units, one who's a fighter and one who's an axe and knight, so he's on a horse. Who are really, really into Larsae. They think she's the hottest thing in the goddamn world. They both show up with an army, but they're green, and their father tells them to attack the rebels and destroy them. But Glup and Shido are like, but fair Larsae is in the rebellion. I don't have the strength to harm her. So what you do is you have Larsae talk to one of them to convince them to join, but when that happens, the other one gets jealous and becomes an enemy unit that you have to fight. So you can only pick Glup or you can pick Shido. You can't pick both.
That's fun. Yeah,
it's a fun little thing. It has a little replayability. But they're ultimately relatively unimportant because they aren't from your Generation 1, like, kids. They're going to show up no matter what, so they're kind of mid, and I didn't really use them much. Now...
Can they be used for their genetic lineage?
So, part 2, you can still have people get together and married. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But
you won't have any more kids to throw around into the meat grinder.
Yeah, there's no part 3.
There's not another time skip.
Yeah, there's no part 3. There was going to be, fun fact, but they didn't have the time to make part 3. So the story ends with Seliph saving the world and destroying and stopping Julius. But you might be thinking, like, hold on a minute there. How does the affection system even work exactly? Well, you see, when units are on the same map together, they gain a little love points. They have a basic starting growth of, like, say, like, you need 500 love points for someone to get married. But, like, these characters will start with, like, a 50. Or Bridget, who shows up late in the game, starts with, like, a 150 just to make it easier for her to get married, because she doesn't have as many turns. So, let's talk about incest again. Let's go back up a little bit. See Julia up there, Deidre's daughter with Arvis, thus Seliph's half-sister. Now, you might be thinking, no, Aleks, you can't have Seliph marry his half-sister. The game actually has her start at 0, and she has a negative love growth with Seliph, just so that you can't have her incestuously marry her brother. What if I were to tell you the jealousy mechanic? All right, now, please refer to the cuck formation I brought up earlier. Now, the way it works is that when people are on the map, they gain love points, but if they're next to each other, they get more love points. But if a woman, a fucking femoid, is off to the side between other women, she will get jealous and siphon the love points that would be gained by those other two into herself. Now, what does this fucking mean? It means Julia's -5 turns into a +2. And it means, with enough turns, you can have her marry her brother. But that takes 500 turns, and they have to specifically be next to each other. Aleks, that would take way too many turns of just passing. You didn't do that. I didn't do that. You see, another funny quirk that may or may not be a bug, if you never reload a save, like you play the game all the way through, or if you're on an emulator, you can just use save states, as saves, like I did, because I played this at work.
Yeah.
If you never reload a save from a map, Julia will start with 495 love with Seliph for some inexplicable reason. And, which means the cuck formation only takes 1 turn, or 2 turns, I should say, and she will immediately marry her brother. Like,
hold on. So, okay, now my gut reaction is like, okay, obviously the game just crashes, right? Because it can't load it, but I have a feeling you're about to tell me they have a whole route written for this shit.
Now, what if I were to tell you there's a specific ending if they get married? Because he becomes
Go
the king
on.
with his beloved sister queen wife Julia. And then
Are you sure he doesn't have that evil dragon blood in him?
Technically she does, but
She got something worse in her. Her brother.
listen, what if I were to tell you this is optimal? Let me explain. So, let's go back to Glup and Shido. If I were to save Glup over there, the blue guy, I actually get access to a secret weapon. Because you get a weapon based on what fort you capture, either Glup or Shido's fort. You know, you have whoever's, the enemy. You like to get a super powerful light tome, which only Julia can use because she's the only light, she's a priestess. She's the only light magic user you got. So, she'll either get a super light tome, or she'll get Nosferatu, which is light magic in the old games. That does a little magic damage and heals you for the damage. Now, when people are lovers, they have a thing called a lover's crit. When they are next to each other, or within a couple spaces of each other, they will have a little silver heart pop up, and they'll get a guaranteed critical hit on the opponent. So you bring Sylph, because Sylph's always gonna be in the front line because he's the main character. He has to cap forts and shit, right? And he's also good, unlike other Fire Emblem lords. So you have Sylph run up with Julia, who now has the tome that heals her whenever she takes damage, thus making her a juggernaut, which means she's gonna keep getting crit, and crit heals because she's next to her brother husband. The incest is optimal. But speaking of optimal, let's talk about Larcey, my beloved. You thought there was only incest in part 2. Let's talk about Eira down there. You see, Eira and Cuchulainn, aka Holland in some translations, they're actually distant cousins. I say distant, but they had a family reunion once back in Izak, and Cuchulainn saw Eira as a young child and thought she was the most beautiful woman in all of Izak, and knew that one day she would be his wife. So he asked to marry her. She's like, yeah, sure, fuck it, why the fuck not? So my Larcey, because I had them married together because I saw their blood chart, I'm like, oh wait, I can get a major holy blood character here, and so I had Larcey, my double chromosomal warrior down there, right? So Larcey might be the most overpowered unit I've ever used in Fire Emblem. Yes, more than Athos. The only thing she could do was crit everything, take no damage, dodge every hit, also had enough magic to just use the magic range swords, and just win the game for me. I cannot believe how overpowered Larcey was, and I thought it was really funny. The only way she became that overpowered is because I had her
You had the
parents
deep
were
south
cousins.
Max.
But Tad, what if I told you it doesn't end there? Let's look at Shannon over there. So, fun fact, Shannon is the nephew of Eira, thus Larcey's cousin. Who do you think Larcey's canonical husband is? Spoilers, it's her cousin Shannon. So, so we're getting a little neck deep in this here, right? So we already got, if there was a Generation 3, this would be like a quadruple chromosomal crusader. Whoever their kid would be would have 5,000
He would have
strength.
he would have max all stats, but they would just also look like the guy from the Goonies.
My favorite part is 500 is the cap, right? The starting love growth between her and her cousin, her literal cousin. She knows it's her cousin, by the way. There's no bullshit. She knows who it is. This isn't a lie. Is 210. She is nearly halfway to marrying her cousin on site, and I thought it was really, really funny. So that game is wild. That game is a fucking trip. Again, it's super easy. I loved it. But Fire Emblem 5. Now, someone in the chat commented in my Fire Emblem 7 video of my amazing plays. He asked me, he said, I can't wait for him to play Thracia. Because Thracia is regarded as the hard one. Also the bad one, but also the hard one. Going from the easy story-driven game to the hard story, not driven, mechanically complex doodoo poo-poo stinko game that is Thracia was a fucking trip. Now, Thracia...
Do you have to syndrome max your kids in this one?
No, so there isn't any shipping in this one. This one is specifically with Leaf. Leaf, who is the cousin of Sigurd, is the cousin of Seliph, because, Ethlin is Sigurd's sister, and Leaf is Ethlin and Quan's son, right?
Okay.
So they're cousins. Now, Leaf is actually a unit in 4, and the two of them go on crusades and stuff. Leaf is from Thracia, and he wants to save Thracia and whatever. Chapter 7, you go through the desert, and you get down to a little segment on the border, and you see Leaf, Nana, and Finn defending themselves against King Bloom. And the entirety of Thracia 776 takes place basically, I want to say in that chapter, but like before that chapter, during that chapter, and then a little after that chapter.
That conflict.
Yes, it is a midquel. So what I think is really, really interesting is this game is relatively light on story. It is largely a character story of Leaf with his advisor Augustus being effectively his father, just kind of like teaching him how to be a leader, how to be a man, and like save like Thracia. It's really interesting because like I actually kind of like Leaf a lot. He's kind of dog shit when you get him, but like every single scene he has with Augustus is really, really interesting because Augustus is like, he's an advisor and he's just like actually good at advising. He doesn't lore dump like Leywin does, or just like give basic bullshit like tutorials. He's like a character. It's really interesting.
And it sounds like he's not like, oh, the advisor was evil.
No. Augustus is a good guy the whole way through. Augustus is your bro. He's got your back. He does have ulterior motives, but they're good. Leywin hires him to basically build Leaf up to be a hero. Every advice he says, like when he's just like, look upon the people of South Thracia and look how they starve and suffer, Leaf. What do you think when you see them? Leaf's like, I had no idea it was so bad here. I mean, like, I lived my life on the run, but like even then, your retainers took care of you, didn't they? Yes, you never had to want for anything. These are the people that you will one day lead. Remember this, right? He says shit like that to him, but then he'll also be like, there's this traitor guy, Xavier and his commander, that you have to fight. And he's like, take that traitor's head, cut it off, and display it in the front of the castle gate so that everyone fears you. He tells you crazy shit like that because he wants to build you up as the leader of Thracia. He's literally grooming you to be like this figurehead because he needs you to be one. Otherwise, Thracia will never be unified. You can't just be like, Leaf comes into the game.
You can't be a nice guy.
Yes. Leaf starts the game out wanting to be like a hero. He's like, I got my friends with me. We're going to go charge into Castle Munster and we're going to save the day. He loses. He gets his ass fucking captured. He gets imprisoned. And Eyvel, his commander, who's the woman right there, who, spoilers, is actually Bridget from 4. She had her memory wiped by a dragon. It's complicated. I won't get into it. Basically, she doesn't know she's Bridget. And she became a swordsman. And so, anyway, she gets turned to stone. So the plot of the game is we have to get back to Munster, kill Raedric, who's the traitor, and we gotta save Eyvel. That's the plot of the game. And it's basically just building Leaf up, who's like a sad sack, constantly thinking about his failures, into like a hero. And I really liked it. Okay. I actually liked it a lot.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So the thing is that Leaf and Augustus are kind of like the only characters in the game, though. Everyone else is kind of just there. And then, so it's like, if you like the story, basically, like, do you like Leaf and this archetype? You'll love the story. If you not, this is legitimately the story of all time. Now, let's talk about the mechanics, though. This is where it gets interesting. So, Fire Emblem Thracia 776 has so much to it. One, you can't buy things at the start of the game. You are a rebel army that is on the run, so you have to capture units, a new mechanic. You do a slightly lower damaging, lower accuracy attack that will capture the unit and you'll basically hold them at gunpoint, right? You'll grab onto them. Now, when you're grabbed onto them, you have half stats in literally everything, so it's risky. So if you were to like capture a guy in front of like 3 other guys, they're just gonna dogpile you, kill you because you lowered your defense and speed and stuff, and save their guy back, right? But enemies can also do it to you. So you're in this constant battle where you have to kidnap them and steal all their equipment because you can't buy equipment. So then they'll also try to kidnap you and steal your equipment so that you're just fucked. It's fucking awesome. I actually kind of liked it initially. You do eventually get access to an arena to get money and some stores. And you always will have access to a basic store. I'll give you iron weapons, which are the worst weapons in the game. But you'll have you won't be able to get soft locked at least, right? You won't break a weapon and then be fucked and not be able to attack. Is what I would say if that were the truth. You see, there are soft locks in Thracia 776. Let me talk about doors. Doors require thieves to lockpick them open, or to take a door key and use it. I guess the door key fucking shatters into a million pieces after you open a door with it, and it is consumed. What if I were to tell you that if Lithis, you see that guy right there, Lithis next to Safi, He's your thief.
Yeah.
If he dies, the game is unwinnable. You are genuinely fucked. Because
you'll just hit a point where it's like, oh, this door is closed and I can't break it down. You're just fucked.
Yeah,
like you won't come back at the end of the map or anything. That's crazy.
You just lose. You legitimately, like, there are several maps. But here's the thing, though. You get Lithis in Chapter 2X. So basically, the third chapter of the game. Those chapters where the doors are locked don't show up till Chapter 20. So you can get and Lithis, his whole thing is that he's a character who's unlucky. That's his story. And so his character sheet reflects this. He has 0 luck when you get him, and he has like a 1% chance to ever gain luck on a level. AKA, he's never gonna get luck. Luck is the crit stat. So if the enemy has a higher crit rate and crits him and he gets one shot because he's a squishy thief, you won't know it's a bad thing until 20 hours later when you can't play the game anymore. This game does devious shit like that. Now you do get a second thief named Lara, but Lara is not only squishier and even easier to kill than he is, but if you were to do another chapter, she actually becomes a dancer. Dancers are an archetype in Fire Emblem, which basically can do a little dance and make your character act a second time, right? That's their thing. They're a refresher orb from Dota. Now, what if you were to have Lithis die, and then Lara promote into a dancer? Oh wait, now you actually can't pick locks anymore. You just lose. But there's also even more devious things like that. So let's talk about the Pegasus Knight down there. You see the ones that didn't? Misha? Misha, how do you recruit Misha? Well, she's the commanding officer of Pegasus Knights from Celise. Karen is also from Celise. So obviously you just have Karen go talk to him and say, hey, don't work with the bad Thracians of the Empire. Come work with us. We're trying to save the day. Misha will say, that's just not possible. I can't stand against the might of the Empire. Karen, leave me. I won't attack you out of honor, but if I meet again, I will kill you, right? She won't join you. Mm-hmm. But if you were to hit her with a sleep edge, just sword, that you shake somebody and they fall asleep, don't ask how it works. If you hit her with a sleep edge, you can kidnap her, because you can't kidnap her normally because she's on a mount. Mounted units cannot be captured. So you sleep her.
That's a weird, that's a weird extra knowledge of game mechanics to be like, how can I capture a unit? Oh, if I give them this status effect, I'm feeling like, I wonder if Japan, because this was only released in Japan, right? On the Super Nintendo.
This was a Japanese.
I wonder if
this they had exclusive for Super Nintendo, released in 1998, 2 years into the N64's lifespan. You had to go to a store with a blank cartridge and have it injected into the game because it was so limited in its release.
What the fuck?
That is not a joke. That is actually how Thracia was released. Do you want to know why it's the least selling game that literally no one talks about, and why it's one of the only games that never went to Choose Your Legend on the mobile game? That's why nobody played it. It's completely unknown.
I wonder if this was I think this was around the time that Nintendo was trying to do like all these weird like add-ons. Like, remember they had the Link to the Past like weird fucking ROM hack? Mm-hmm. Where like you had to have like a phone plan and it would download it to your Super Nintendo. I think there was a Pokemon thing as well. I wonder if this was their attempt to do that, and so they just kind of went like, yeah, here, one guy, you have total control over this. Do whatever the fuck you want. This is gonna be a weird side add-on.
Yes.
So he could just make it as hard as he wanted to.
Kind of. Shozo Kaga actually left after Thracia due to creative differences. He then went to go work with her Snoy and make Tear Ring Saga. What is Tear Ring Saga? I haven't played it yet, but that is literally a Fire Emblem clone for the PlayStation 1 that was created by the guy who made Fire Emblem. Then he made another franchise. He left Snoy to make other PS2 games for a third party. Then that other game series is also literally just Fire Emblem, but also the assets were so close that Nintendo sued them due to the fact that it was quite literally just a Fire Emblem clone. Now he's old now, but he actually makes indie games on Steam called Vistarian Saga. He has 2 games up this, and know what it is, Tad? Spoilers, it's Fire Emblem. It's Fire Emblem again, but on PC. Which I own them, but I haven't played them yet. I got them on sale on Steam. It's crazy. Like he has one thing. He can just make Fire Emblem. But anyway, back to Thracia, because there's more. There's more of this crazy shit. Okay, so you already know how the inventory works. Now, let's go back to that character. You have to sleep her, kidnap her, don't release her, steal her things, then after you beat the level, she will come to her senses now that she visually could see that the Empire was defeated, that they can be fought, she will now join you. Where do you get a sleep sword? A shop? A quest? No. Let's go back a little to the previous chapter. There are 6 knights who carry sleep swords who will try to ambush you and put your knights to sleep. You have to sleep them with a sleep staff to then steal their sleep swords to then continue the sleep chain. Where do you get a sleep staff? You get it from a character named Salem, a guy with that weird little red guy with the pompadour you see on the guys who never joined. You can probably already see where this is going. In the forest map, that's pure darkness because it's nighttime. He is running with a group of brigands and like holding out in this like little fort area. So you gotta go over there, get Merida, and not kill him, but kidnap him, and then go to the next chapter within 20 turns. You see, if you don't do it in 20 turns, daylight happens, and you understand that, oh, these brigands aren't actually bad guys. They're the Dandelion Bandits. They rob from the Empire and give to the poor. We're so sorry about this. We didn't mean to hurt you. We'll be on our way. And he won't join you because you have to specifically kidnap him, force him to kill all of his allies in the bonus chapter, and do the bad thing to get Salem and his sleep staff to then sleep the guy. Why didn't I do this in 20 turns? There was an arena there, and I wanted Merida to get some EXP. So because my one decision to make Merida a little stronger, because she's a swordsman, and swordsmasters are really good, they're like dodge tanks that crit a lot. And she's also related to Eyvel, who's like, again, she's like the center point of the story. So like, oh, I'll train her and we'll get this all settled out. Because I decided to train Merida, I was fucked out of multiple characters. I couldn't get Salem now because that took too long. I couldn't get Tina, who's in the next map. I couldn't get that blue guy next to him, who's like a rogue guy who could also help you out. Couldn't get him. And then that means I also couldn't sleep Misha. So that's 4 characters I lost for a decision I made 5 hours ago. And that's what Thrasia's all about. It's a crazy fucking game. And like, I kind of love it, but also kind of hate it because I think the map design is kind of dog shit. After a while, the map will start throwing...
You might be into these blobbers that I've been playing, these fucking dungeon RPG games, because they have a lot of shit like that. Some of the older ones will have, like, decision points made early will have, like, really far-reaching consequences.
Yeah, but like these aren't like... When people make these kind of decisions, they're always like... Because I pick this dialogue, I'll get bonus dialogue or not get a scene like hours later. In this case, it's gameplay decisions.
Yeah.
I couldn't get characters because I fucked myself over and I didn't even realize it. Because I'm like, oh, Marida's getting stronger and I'm getting lots of money and I could buy weapons and shit. I thought I would make the game a little easier. Now, I want to talk about some funny things that happened though. Now, the game has some interesting map designs and I think you're going to love this bit. Now, this is a game that is a tactical RPG. You have a full view of the map, and you can move your characters around. Why am I saying this all of a sudden? Well, you see, there's this character named Olwen. Olwen is a bad guy who becomes a good guy. She gets imprisoned by this asshole named Kempf, and you take Fred and you free her, right? And the map is designed... Fred, yes. His name is just Fred. It's Alfred in some translations. Otherwise, it's just Fred in the game that I played. I thought it was funny. So... Your map's split in 2 halves. It's a pure pitch dark map because you're in like the dungeon of a castle. You have to light the way with torches and like make your way through while the guys are firing at you from the fucking walls. They're in the goddamn walls. But in the top half of the map, you have Fred, who you play solo, and he's on his way with his lightning sword to cut down through soldiers and save Olwen, right? Because Olwen is like his commanding officer, and so he's going to try to save her. Now, alongside Olwen are 3 children, because the Thracians are working with the Empire. The South Thracians, I should say, are working with the Empire, and they're enacting child hunts. They kidnap children, have them fight in like a Hunger Games-ass death arena, and all the ones that die, they are offered up as like sacrifices to their dark dragon god Laptis, and those who survive are made into soldiers. Yeah.
I almost forgot about the evil dragons.
Yeah. So like they're rounding up kids and stuff, right? So I was
the South Thracians are doing that because basically their country's dog shit. They can't do anything.
But yeah, like $20 to kidnap a bunch of kids. Fuck it, I'll do it for fucking $5. Right? They have no real choice. And then the Northern Thracians are just under control under the Empire because King Bloom, who was appointed by the Empire. So, so anyway, I free her. I'm like, I gotta save Olwen immediately. She's getting attacked by the guys in the walls, and like she can't defend herself. I gotta give her her magic tome, which is the Dire Thunder unique tome, which is it has like it's a brave weapon that has a lot of crit and shit. She's really powerful. So like, I gotta get her fast. This is a horrible idea. So because I free Olwen and I give her a tome, she's like, "Oh, thanks, Fred." They high five, and the kids are like, "We're free. We're gonna get out of here." The kid steps out and just goes, "Oh!" and gets hit by a fucking meteor and explodes. Because what I didn't realize is that the bishop, who is the boss of the arena, has not one but 2 siege tomes. Siege tomes are 10 range weapons that attack slowly, hit hard, but again, they attack from far away. They're like catapults, but magic, right? So he sees this kid escape the cell and immediately 180s and murders the child. I don't know, I'm like, oh my god, I just fucked it. That kid's just dead now. The second kid runs out, and I'm like, no, shit.
No, little German boy.
So
don't run into the meteor field.
No, Tad, this one gets struck by lightning instead, because he has 2 siege tomes, and he decides to zap this one instead. And I went, oh no! And then the third kid, luckily the third kid got away because I had Lippis, who has 1 luck, and the boss went like, oh, this guy's unlucky, I better kill him, because he basically has aggro on at all times. So Lippis gets hit with the lightning bolt and survives, and the kid gets away safely. Now, that was really funny. I lost my shit laughing when I saw the little orphan boy run out of the jail cell and just fucking explode.
Turn into lasagna.
But, what if I were to tell you this was a huge mistake? Next chapter.
It's actually more optimal to only have 1 child die.
Technically speaking, that's actually true, but also, technically speaking, it is optimal to have the first child live and the other 2 die, just because it'll take less time for them to escape.
0 children. It's only for the first one to get murked.
No. The first one has to be the one to survive. 2 and 3, they can die. Because children only have 2 movement, and it'll take like 10 turns for them to escape. So, you can save some turns with letting the second 2 die. So anyway, why do you want that first kid to survive? He gives you his parents in the village, when they'll be like, you saved my little boy, here. This was collecting dust in the attic, but you can have it as thanks. They give you a scroll. Scrolls do 2 things. 1, they adjust your growths. When a character levels up, they have a random chance to level up a stat, based on the percentages. And the scrolls will boost or lower percentages, so you can really, really build your characters in Thracia when you have them. They also make you immune to critical hits, and that's really, really useful. Especially for, like, Lippis.
Can you luck max that one dude, then? Can you, like, force him to have high luck?
Technically speaking, yes, because there's a luck scroll, is what I would say if I got it. Jimmy exploded to a meteor, so I didn't get it.
So, what do the other parents give you?
One gives you, like, pure water, and the other gives you, like, a sword or some shit.
Wow, some water? I should have let your kid die.
Oh, thanks for the oiter. But it really twisted the knife, because one was like a kid, like a grandma, who's like, oh, Karen, whatever her name is, like Karen, I'll never see you again. No, she's like old and dying in her bed. She's like, I'll see you soon. I'm like, oh man, that made me feel kind of bad. Sorry, your kid got hit by a fucking big rock, and I just had to leave. I just had to leave her die alone. So
damn, that's crazy.
Now let's talk about Xavier. Now this one's kind of iconic. A lot of Thracian players, people who have never played Thracia, know Xavier. Xavier's map is a huge sprawling map where you have to escort a bunch of civilians through a minefield of other evil red units to talk to their husband, their parent, or their grandfather, whatever. Because the traitor Xavier feels bad about what he's done. He wants to side with the rebels, especially now that the rebels are winning, right? But he can't just go like, hey, sorry I helped the Thracians kidnap a bunch of children. Can I join you? That's not going to work. Augustus would never let that fly. But Augustus also thinks, he is pretty strong, though, but I need to be convinced that he's a good person. So you have to escort these kids to their respective red army units. They're knights. They're heavy armored guys, right? There are 8 of them hanging out in the middle of the map. There's also 4 evil knights amongst them, between them, who don't have names, who will try to kill the green units that are trying to talk to their respective, like, parent or whatever, right? You have to get all of them to be green, then talk to Xavier, because Xavier will be like, I won't abandon my men. Right? We won't just leave them here to fend for themselves while he joins you, right? So effectively making them good will then allow you to make him good. Now, that doesn't sound too difficult. So here's how this game works. Green units take up space on the board. You can immediately tell where this is going. You have to try.
Oh my god!
You have to try to aggro the evil knights away from the green units to kill them, but also not kill the named ones, but also aggro the named ones to the green units, but also not bring the wrong green to the wrong guy. Like, oh, Jimmy's son's trying to convince him? Well, Derek hates Jimmy and Jimmy's son, so he'll just run over and stab Jimmy with a fucking knife because he's a green unit and he's a red unit because this game isn't programmed very well. So you have to try to maneuver this in a way where you get the green units all there with their 1 HP to these guys and kill all the bad ones and save the good ones. How do you do that? Well, Tad, remember the sleep edge I didn't get earlier? Well, you see, the reason I couldn't do this is because one of the easiest ways is to sleep the named guys, because even if they're asleep, the parent can still talk to them or whatever for some stupid fucking reason. So you can sleep all of them with the sleep edges. That you have 6 sleep edges,
and then just
right?
keep the have your warrior units up front, to the unnamed evil knights. Kill those, sleep the ones that are there. Makes it doable.
Yes. This takes about 4 hours to do. Xavier also isn't even all that good. Now, why do you even want Xavier? Now, first of all, I should say, why couldn't I do this? Because I didn't have a sleep edge because of my misplay with train Marita, alright? That's another thing where I can't do this fucking map objective. But also, why do you want Xavier? You see, he has a lance and an axe. Now, lances beat swords, swords beat axes, and axes beat lances. It's rock, paper, scissors, right? Now, he's one of the only characters in the game that can use a lance indoors. The fuck do you mean indoors? Well, you see, Ted, let's look at Finn. Finn is your loyal knight from FE4 who's trying to save Leaf and, do all this bullshit. He was in 4. Now, he's got the Brave Lance. It allows him to attack 4 times in a row and kill people, right? But he can only use the lance while he's on his horse. You can't bring a horse inside, silly. That's dumb. So he has to get off of his horse and then enter a fort. There will be maps that are either entirely indoors or half indoors. Now there's a map with Fred where you have to have Fred run up through a place, then wait a turn, then dismount, wait a turn again, and then he can enter a fort and use his sword. Finn loses his lance because he can only use a lance on a horse, so then he's a foot-mounted sword unit. Xavier, being a general, can use lances indoors without need to be on a horse. And he starts the game with E, which means he can only use the weakest one in the game. So he's a really good unit. So this game is fucking crazy. I genuinely love it. But there's one final thing I want to mention before I close this out for how this game is designed, right? Now, you see that character named Sarah, the purple-haired lady? Now, Sarah,
I also see a purple-haired man named Homer,
aka Homo. I literally didn't use him. He's just some guy who uses light magic, but there's only 2 light tomes in the game, so I just threw him in the bench. I took his light tome. I almost
looked past the guy named Fergus.
Fergus is actually the illegitimate son of Beowulf from the previous game, which is really cool. Yeah, he's actually connected to that. So
anyway, Sarah.
Sarah is actually the granddaughter of Manfroy. You don't know that initially, but there's a plot reason why that is. So, there's another map I gotta show you. So, you're probably thinking, how do you save Eyvel? You obviously go just beat the story and save her, right? No, that's fucking stupid. What you gotta do is you gotta do this map right here. Now, as you see from this map, there's a bunch of children right there. Once again, you gotta save the children. Luckily, there aren't any meteors and lightning storms ready to kill them. But those evil dark wizards will try to kidnap them and take them away. What you have to do is you have to save all of the children because one of the kids will, for whatever reason, open that door at the top. A thief cannot open that door. Only one of the kids can. You also don't know what kid it is, and it's randomly selected when the map starts. So you can't even,
Is there any way that you know a kid has it?
Nope, I just said that. It's random. And there's no inventory or nothing. He doesn't like have like a secret key in his pocket that you can look at in the menu. Nope.
But
It's
there's
just,
no like story thing where it's like, one of the kids might help us in here. Nothing like that.
one guy just says like we got to save the kids, and that's it. He doesn't say anything specifically about that. In fact, when the kid goes up to the door, he says, "Huh, this door is weird." He touches it and it crumbles. He's like, "Huh, that's weird. It just kind of opened. Must be broken. Okay, bye," and he leaves. So you then have to have a thief. Once again, he had
Hope you kept your one alive, or
Yes.
you got your sleep sword so you could get the second backup one.
Yeah, so then Lefis runs over. He has to open that chest and get the Kia staff. The Kaya staff, whatever the fuck it's called. Kaya can remove the stone effect, but can only be used by someone of Manfroy's blood. So once again, Sara is required. If you didn't use a level up or she just died somewhere, you can't free Eyvel now.
You can't turn her back?
Yep.
That's crazy.
But then it's not over because there's something even more bullshit than that. Let me tell you about how I saved Eyvel. Here's the Eyvel map. Okay, so the Eyvel map is what I call legitimately unfair. This is the only map I actually looked at this image for a guide for. Because here's what happens. It is pitch black. So now you see this, you can't see it. It's completely pitch black until you use a torch spell or torch item. Luckily, I had a bunch just in case. Because there's fog of war maps in other games. I was aware of this one. But, see all those little red circles, Tad?
Yeah.
When you step on that red circle, you are then teleported to that room at the bottom, where those two wizards, as well as reinforcements who spawn from those two red squares next to them, will just beat the shit out of you and kill you. There are multiple of them. There are no way to tell which one is which, or which is a good tell, which isn't. It is either trial and error, or you look up a guide. And remember, you can't see where you're going. So while you're doing this, you have constant reinforcements spawning in, constant guys in the middle there who are on tiles that give them 10 additional magic, aka 10 extra damage, and have the Fenrir Siege Tome, who are constantly blasting you and you can't even see what the fuck's happening. And you do all this to get Eyvel. You gotta get Sara up to Eyvel, for unstoner, and then you have Leaf talk to Eyvel, or Marita, her daughter, talk to her to get her to join again. So, why is this so difficult? Well, it sounds difficult already. But I was prepared, okay? I had what were called rewarp staffs. Remember how I said you can kidnap units? You can kidnap the wizards and take their evil magic. The rewarp staff allows you to warp the current unit who's using it, aka your like healer staff unit, anywhere on the map they want. So your staff units at the late part of the game are actually the best units in the game. Your sages and your clerics will basically be winning the game because all of the enemies are magic, so they're gonna have, because magic is resistance, like Gen 1 Pokemon. So, like,
yeah.
The best way to fight them is to then use your own mages against them, but only the staff are using one. So, I have Kia warp up into that room, because you can warp even if you can't see it. Warp up into the room, get Eyvel, and then use the...
Fight your way out.
No, use not rewarp, but warp, which allows you to warp a different unit anywhere on the map. So then I have Eyvel warp over next to Leaf, and then next turn I'll have Leaf talk to her. What if? But here's what happens. One of those fucks in the middle cast silence on Eyvel while she was a green unit, which means she can't talk because she is silenced and she can't make any words, which means I couldn't talk to her, which means I couldn't recruit her, which means I couldn't fucking save her technically. I was so fucking mad. I was so legitimately angry that this is the only time I said, all right, fuck it, I'm resetting the map. Because at this point, I was actually doing an Ironman. Fire Emblem 4 taught me, with the whole, the Aid Desert thing, taught me Ironmans are actually kind of interesting. And the reason I like 4 so much is because it really taught me, like, I learned how to play Fire Emblem when I learned, after playing 7, but I also played 6, and I started doing a bunch of, like, cheeky shit that the YouTuber Femblem does. I'm like, now I know how to really play. But watching those two die and losing them made me realize, like, I now know how to really enjoy Fire Emblem. So, like, when those kids died, if you talked to me, like, a year ago, I would have recently...
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching them die. But, like, when those kids died, I would have reset the map to get the objective right, you know? But instead, I just rolled with what I had, right? I didn't get Salem because of that thing. I just rolled with it. I couldn't save Misha. I just rolled with it, and I was enjoying the game a lot more because now I'm creating these stories.
Bullshit.
Yeah, but this specific thing, because I literally the entire point of the game is to save Eyvel, right? I'm like, all right, yeah, no, I'm breaking my Iron Man rules. I'm gonna reset the map. So I reset the map, redid it, and saved Eyvel for real this time. Now, there's one final thing about this map though. At the end of this, you have to open that door. So if you can't open the door, you can't win. You have to do escape. Escape chapters mean everyone has to go enter the little like arrow and leave the map, and then Leaf has to leave last. Wait, what about the teleport room you mentioned earlier? If someone gets teleported down there, there's no exit, which means they can't escape, which means they're left behind, and you can't bring them to the final map. And that is what's so devious about those teleports. They legitimately just remove that unit from your party for the finale. You're just fucked.
That's crazy. So those warp staffs, are they like a rare drop, or can you just buy like 50 of those from a store?
Rewarp, which is only the caster can warp around. That's actually tons. You can steal tons of those. But warp to warp another unit, you can only get like 3 of those in the game, which is 9 total uses because they had 3 uses each.
Damn.
Rescue allows you to take anyone from the map and bring them to the caster. Yes, there are 3 teleportation spells that are all different. Rescue, There's only 2, so you have 6 uses. There's a lot more than 6 tiles on that map. So you can get completely fucked. That map is bullshit. But then let's finish this off with the finale. The final finale map. Tad, there are 6 doors. What if I were to tell you that if you don't want to waste 50 turns having Lithis slowly walk across the entire map, you were supposed to save 6 door keys for the entire game until the finale to make this a little easier? Because
how many door keys are even in the game? Probably like 10.
Yeah, it's like 10 actually. So I was given a hint, say save your door keys for when you need them. I'm like, okay, well there's a map here where there's like 5 doors. I have to save these kids. This is clearly the map, so I used a couple door keys. Or I have to go to the prison to save Maka, because I had Maka get captured, because Maka got put to sleep, had all of her hand axes stolen, which I didn't get back, by the way, and then she got kidnapped and taken to fucking gay baby jail. So I had to get him like, oh, obviously there's a bunch of doors here and a bunch of loot. Gotta use the door keys here. I get to the finale and go, oh my fucking god, I don't have any more fucking door keys. I'm actually fucked. I had to then just sit there and wait for Livis to open every door for me, is what I would say if I had to wait for Livis to open every door for me. What if I told you there's another way to beat this map? So you have to get... Okay, so you have to kill those guys on the altars, and then you have to have your units sit on the altars to break open the seal and open the center to fight the final boss, Veld. So you have to basically... You have to have at least 6 units alive to even do this map. Like, if there's too many dead, you're just soft-locked, right?
Now, I got a question.
What's up?
So, this is on that same 24X, right? The Laptrian altar?
This is, sorry, I have to send you this map. It's this map right here. This right here, you can see all the altars on the thing right here.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, looking at that other one, it was like, you can't have melee units to fight anything in there, because there's all those fucking traps.
Yep. So, here's what happens. Right. Now, there are
final chapter, sworn upon a sword.
Yes. You are constantly being assaulted by those shadow wizard money gangs in the middle of those little rooms. So the middle one with Veld, that's blocked off. You don't have to worry about it initially. The berserkers are up there, but they're easy to kill. Those wizards in the altars have Fenrir, so they're constantly just slinging fucking artillery at you across the map while you can't really do anything about it initially. Now, you can have one of your...
child-seeking missiles.
Yes. You can... bring up like a ranged unit up in front, because they're in front of the door, so you can have like one of your casters just blast them or something. But remember, they're on those purple tiles. They have 10 additional magic, thus 10 additional resistance. So they have nearly 30 fucking resistance, taking 30 less damage per magical blast.
God, you really gotta tank that shit, because there's like 6 different squares, and they all got 4 things on them.
Yep.
Not to mention the 6 in the middle. What the fuck is this map?
It's fucking dog shit, it's what it is. But while all this is happening, those 4 red squares around you are constantly spawning ads to harass you on top of the other harassment you're getting. I was on this map for a couple of hours. I was
Good Lord.
I was like, I don't have any door keys, and I have to have Lithis, who has no luck. Like, granted, he can't get crit because I gave him a scroll, but like he can't dodge. So they are going right for him first. Remember what I said earlier? He basically has aggro because he can't dodge. he can't move around to the room to open up the doors because he's getting blasted by Fenrir tomes. What do I do here? I'm fucked. I didn't save my keys. But then, after 2 hours of beating my head against this wall, I'm like, okay, I have said in the Forseti tome from Fire Emblem 4. I'll have said warp in, tank shots, tank aggro, warp around, and just start blasting each guy. So you can only use the silent staff to negate magic if you have more magic than the opponent. But these guys have 28 magic. So if Ced walks into there and he'll have 30, that means he has 2 more, which means he can silence them so they can't cast their magic. And silence lasts the whole map.
There you go.
So I'm like, okay, think about this. I have a bow. Have the bow guy attack him, have Ced teleport in here, have him get warped so he can still act, because I still have 1 warp left. Then have him silence this guy over here so he doesn't kill Lithis, blast this guy on the return turn, have Sara run over here and attack this guy, and do all of this shit, only for then ads to show up and kill Lithis anyway. I'm like, fuck! I'm like, okay, wait, I'll bring Laura. Laura's been sitting here unpromoted for the whole game. I'll both of them go in here. And I'm like running around playing this whole thing, and my friend's like, Aleks, you've been at this for 2 hours, I'll just give you a hint. You can just block the spawns, because this game is not programmed very well. You can just have a unit on the red square and the enemies don't show up. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I immediately first tried the map after that, because once I didn't have to deal with the constant reinforcements of a bunch of berserkers and heroes beating the shit out of me, all I had to really do was just kill those 6 sorcerers, and the map was basically over. Because once they weren't assaulting me with siege tomes, I can kill each boss like on my own pace and on my own terms. There's no time limit anymore, right? So it got a lot easier. That map is actually deceptively easy as long as you have 1 thief. Because again, if you don't have a thief, you can't open those doors. But like as long as you have one way to open those 6 doors, you'll be fine. But
I feel like a thief is probably one of your more important resources, though, because even though he gets his shit kicked in, the whole gimmick of this game is like, yoink, I'll be having that then.
Exactly.
Shit from people.
Yep, you can't take weapons, but you can take their other gear that they're not currently equipped. But what's interesting is that you can take their magical tomes, even if they're equipped, which I thought was really funny. So there was a guy who had like a fucking Hellfire. I just had fucking Lithis walk up and just go yoink and disarm him, and he just couldn't fight back now. I thought it was really funny. Enemies, if they are disarmed, will legitimately just run away and leave the map and escape. Well, I think it's really cute. But like that game was crazy. Now, I think it might be probably a weak entry. Okay, let me explain. Story-wise, it's on the weaker side, and gameplay-wise, I think the map design is actually pretty poor, because it just starts spamming ballistas and siege tomes at you constantly, and it's a little unfun, because basically the game boils down to just either warp skipping everything with your casters, or having someone juggernaut up, and just kill all the ballistas and siege guys.
And tank everything, for the rest of the map. And that strategy just kind of works for almost every map.
Yes, but what if I were to tell you, Kaga thought of that? You see, this is where I keep thinking the meta kind of bad. There's a stamina mechanic. If someone fights more than they have health, so if say a guy has 50 health, he fights 51 times, he'll be a little EP, and he won't be able to fight in the next fight. So you have to have him sit out for a map, and then use a different character instead. The game actually gives you a lot of low rank reinforcements because the game knows that you can't always have your strongest units with you at all times. So they kind of like give you a lot of like weak little axe guys or sword or spear guys to kill. But
do you get like generic mooks if your named guys keep dying?
No, you get that. You get that in the DS remake of 1, but in this game, no, I didn't think of that yet. If you're
so I was thinking, I'm like, maybe you could just do that to kind of filter through your mooks until you get some free thieves.
No. That good thinking. You're thinking like Marth, but unfortunately, no. So you can get fucked sometimes. You're like, oh, I want my Juggernaut to kill these ballistas. I can't because they're EP from Juggernauting the last 17 ballistas. Because what ends up happening is like, I'm gonna have Marita, because she can dodge every shot, run up and kill this ballista. But then the ads are supposed to be there for your lower level units so that you can kind of split the forces. Are just gonna go for Marita. They're just gonna go for Marita because
she's gonna hit that 50 limit really fast or whatever.
Exactly. But what if I told you there's a way to negate that too? Tad, have you ever heard of the country of North Korea? Trust me, this is relevant. Have you ever heard of North Korea?
I've seen their fantastic media.
Now, are you aware of North Korean Meth Gatorade?
Excuse me?
North Korea exports 2 things. Three things. Wigs, fake eyelashes, and meth. They make lots of meth. They make fuckloads of meth. But they ended up having so much meth, they started just doing other things with it, like put it in sports drinks and call it an herbal remedy. Now, the North Korean Meth Gatorade is very important to Thracia. Because what did I just call Thracia earlier in Fire Emblem 4? I called it Korea. Because in Thracia 776, you have stamina drinks, aka Thracian Meth Gatorade. You can give that to somebody, it'll take an inventory slot, and then get consumed on the map, and they will have their stamina refilled. You only get a few.
Hell yeah.
You only have a few of those in the entire game, is what everyone who hasn't played the game has told you. In the, I think it's chapter 7, the map where Selfina and all the knights die. Because, you know, I had Selfina live, but the other guys didn't. There's an arena next to a shop that sells them. So you can just infinitely grind like 50 of them if you wanted to. Now, are you saying, Aleks, you didn't train Leaf, Finn, Lippis, and Ocean in the arena and use all that money to buy 27 stamina drinks? Ted, let me tell you about the same 10 characters I used the entire game because I kept giving them Meth Gatorade.
You had every one of these characters cracked the fuck out like that one Swedish World War II dude that skied like 800 miles.
Listen.
Your legion of fucking leaned out freaks fixed this country.
You might be thinking, Olwen has the Wrath skill. And because she's a mage knight with a 1/2 dire tome that gives her a lot of crit, and she always gets a free crit on her counterattack with Wrath, you might be thinking, oh, Aleks, you gave her 20 stamina drinks, didn't you?
It's a habit.
Yes.
She can stop anytime she wants.
Now look. You were all right. I scuffed my way through that, but I'm very happy that I learned how to really appreciate an Iron Man and Fire Emblem, because it does give you really unique stories, especially for a unique game like Thracia. Unironically, Iron Man Thracia, because that game makes fucking stories happen. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I want to end this off with. All right, now two more things.
Would it have been worth it? I mean, if you never knew that you missed out on all that stuff from consulting outside resources, would it still be that interesting of a playthrough? Not knowing what you missed out on?
Yes, because there's some that are obvious, like Misha having like a unique portrait and dialogue. You obviously know that was a character you could recruit, right? But like the bonus chapter with like Salem or something, right? Like, I think so. I think even if you didn't have outside resources, some of them are so obvious to you anyway that you'll be like, you'll give it another shot.
I could do this next playthrough.
But here's the thing: when you're Iron Manning tags, remember, not only are the stat level ups kind of randomized, which already inherently makes it a little more interesting, but like, let's say like I was using Hicks died. Next playthrough, I'll use Hicks and try to keep him alive this time, right? That immediately makes your playthrough a little different. You just have a different unit and a different character with different assets. So like Iron Manning makes the game a little more interesting because you never know what's going to really fully happen.
They're rolling with the punches.
Yes. Now, I would highly recommend if, okay, so when Leaf dies, the game resets because he's the main character, right? The game will kick you back to the menu. I would highly recommend also pretending Lippis is like that too, because you literally can't beat the game without him. But outside of the Lippis clause, I highly recommend trying to Iron Man a game as crazy as Thracia. And to end this off, I want to let you know how good of a programmer Kage is at this game. Now, there's a skill called Wrath. Wrath is, if an enemy attacks before you, aka on their turn, your counterattack will always be a critical hit. Critical hits do bonus damage and penetrate armor and resistance. That's really useful, okay?
Especially, that sounds nuts.
Especially when those bosses are on tiles that give them extra evasion, defense and resistance in the final map, right? Now, there's another skill called Vantage. Vantage allows you to always attack first. Dermot comes in with a sword that gives him both skills. Tad, they literally don't work together. They negate each other. Dermot comes in with a sword that allows him to always strike first, and if he were to ever get counterattacked, he will always crit, which means he will never crit because he will never counterattack. Also, Dermot from Fire Emblem 4 fucking died and it was fucking bullshit. Let me explain this, okay? Random fucking enemy. Listen. Enemies spawn in from certain areas like trees, or they'll spawn in from like to ambush you from the forest, or they'll spawn in from like forts or staircases. I had a shadow wizard pop out of a literal pillar that I was next to. He came out of nowhere, and on the same turn he came in, walks up to Dermot, gets a 2% crit on his 30% accurate magic, one-shots Dermot, and then runs away. I was so fucking angry. I was so mad. I'm just like, it's an Iron Man. Just let him die. It's an Iron Man. That was fair. Nope, that's totally fair. Fuck you, Kaga. Fuck you, Kaga. I can't wait to play your next game.
It's an interesting setup. My experience with Fire Emblem has been very, very limited. I think I played it literally one time. I was in like the high school lunchroom and I was watching my friend Brad play it. And that was like 14 years ago. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. All right. I guess my only other experience was that one Retrospective video where the guy made like a ROM hack where he self-inserted himself. But he got cucked out of his relationship with like Lucina.
Yeah, so, okay. If you were to ever play these games, you would like the older games better. Because one, they're a little better in terms of story. But also, they're grittier. Now that I've played the older games, specifically 4 and 5, the ones that everyone, talks about. Now that I've played them, and I've also played, I played Revelations, I played 6 and 8, and I played Engaged. Engage. Now that I had a lot more experience since that last video, I understand what they're all talking about. When you guys are saying that modern Fire Emblem was way too anime, what you're starting to say is older Fire Emblem was grittier. And I completely agree. Motherfuckers die in Fire Emblem, right? Like Eldigan goes to his King Chagall and says, please, sir, stop the war. This is senseless. King Chagall has him executed, takes his severed head, and delivers it to your army base to demoralize you, right? You don't get that in modern Fire Emblem, right? Or
I feel like that's more of a symptom of like what 80s anime used to be, where like it would be a lot more hardcore from that because it's being made by people who grew up in the fucking 50s and 60s and shit.
You say that, but the Game Boy Advance games were still grittier too. Let's talk about Narshen. Nashin, how the fuck you pronounce his name? Narshen just straight up threatens to rape Clarine in Chapter 4. I was like,
Jesus.
I'm just like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that. I guess it was a Japanese exclusive. But then in Fire Emblem 8, the other one that came into America, Valtyr, because you play as Erica. Oh, we can play as Erica or Ephraim, but I played as Erica for my first run. Erica, who's a girl protagonist. Valtyr, when he tries to fight you, he's like, I'm gonna beat you down, I'm gonna force you to be my wife, and I'm gonna do whatever I want to you. I'm like, damn, they got that through an E rating, huh? Fucking damn, alright. Like, then that's, even the Game Boy Advance games, yeah, they were just grittier. Or, like, I haven't played Ice games yet, but, like, motherfuckers die in that game. There's also, because they're fantasy races, that one, motherfuckers are just racist. So, like, I understand entirely what they mean. Like, you don't get that kind of shit anymore. Comparing, like, comparing Narshin or Valtyr threatening to literally rape these two characters compared to, like, comedic hard cut to any bullshit support conversation in Engage, or the third fake-out death scene in Engage. Yeah, no, I get it. You're never gonna get fucking barbecue at Valhalla again. It's insane. Run this out. There you go. There's my recent journeys through Femblem, and I only have 4 games left. I'm almost done with the whole franchise. So
good lord.
Yeah. So if there's anything crazy, I might have a third episode to round it out. But I have a sneaking suspicion Thracia was going to be most of my crazy content.
Well, speaking of crazy content, that's a little transitional shot. You can find the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, not on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, Twitter in the description, Discord in the description, Patreon, etc., etc. I don't really have much more to add to it. So it's a crazy game series. Thank you for playing it, because I would not have made it past like map 3. I would have said fuck this shit and gone back to playing these goofy ass Ocarina of Time ROM hacks I've been playing. I was playing a ROM hack where Navi swears, Aleks. She says the F word. It's fucking badass.
You should have.
Hey, listen, Link, fuck you. That's what it's like, Aleks. It's my twisted, dark version of Hyrule. I call it Low Rule.
So, what was the name of that stupid fucking little app you showed me earlier? Fuck, the little silky dudes.
Those Selkie dudes. What are you talking
Those
about?
little music dudes. Those kids were showing you.
Oh, the fuck, Aleks, you don't know about Sprunkies?
Yeah, like, are you gonna have those little mods where, like, you're playing the mod and it just gets progressively creepier every fucking, like, Dodongo you kill, like the fucking Sprunkies?
Hyper realistic blood.
The Sprunkies. Listen, you guys don't know what we're talking about, and neither do we.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
I was on it on that second clap. That's a legit clap right there. That is the clap of all time.
You're flipping on point. Fleek, Liddy, Sprunky.
You gotta stop hanging with these
Talking
kids,
about
bro.
Sprunky.
You gotta stop hanging with these kids, bro.